James Westerfield. James Westerfield, March 22, 1913 September 20, 1971, was an American character actor of stage, film, and television. Early years. Westerfield was born in Nashville, Tennessee, to candy maker Brasher Omer Westerfield and his wife Dora Elizabeth Bailey. He was raised in Detroit, Michigan. A news story in the June 12, 1949 issue of the Brooklyn Daily Eagle calls the information in a preceding sentence into question. It describes Westerfield as the son of a famous producer-director and says he was a youngster in Denver. Colonel. Stage career. Westerfield became interested in theatre as a young man and in the 1930s joined Gilmer Brown's famed Pasadena Community Playhouse, appearing in dozens of plays. He played in numerous films following his screen debut in 1940, then went to New York City and performed on Broadway, winning 2 New York Drama Critics Circle Awards for his supporting roles in The Madwoman of Chilliwack and Detective Story. He then returned to Hollywood and was cast in more than 40 additional films. Despite his growing involvement acting in motion pictures and later in television productions, Westerfield maintained an active interest in the theatre for the remainder of his career. He directed more than 50 musicals in a summer musical tent he owned in Danbury, Connecticut, and was the original stage director and producer for the Greek Theatre in Los Angeles. He directed 3 seasons of Theatre Under the Stars in Vancouver, British Columbia, and appeared in musical roles with the Detroit Civic Light Opera, the Los Angeles Civic Light Opera, and the San Francisco Civic Light Opera. He also was active in the Gaetano Merola Opera Company in San Francisco in the early 1940s. Films. On film, Westerfield had roles in A Magnificent Amber since 1942 and The Waterfront 1954, Lucy Gallen 1955, the 1957 Bud Burtish directed Western Decision at Sundance starring Ranulph Scott, Cowboy 1958, a repeating role in The Shaggy Dog, The Absent-Minded Professor 1961 and a sequel Son of Flubber 1963, Birdman of Alcatraz 1962, Man's Favorite Sport 1964, The Sons of Katie Elder 1965, Han M. High 1968 and True Grit 1969. Television. Westerfield had many roles on television, including 7 episodes as John Merrill from 1963 to 1964 on ABC The Travels of Damien McFeeters, starring child actor Kurt Russell in the title role. He made 2 guest appearances on Perry Mason, including the role of Sheriff Bud Elmore in the 1957 episode The Case of the Angry Mourner, as well as in the role of murder victim Roger Quigley in the 1961 episode The Case of the Resolute Reformer. He also appears in the 1954 episode Texas Draw in the Western The Lone Ranger. Some other examples of Westerfield's work on television include performances on series such as The Rifleman, The Californians, Richard Diamond, Private Detective, The Alaskans, The Rebel, Straight Away, Going My Way, The Asphalt Jungle, Hazel, The Twilight Zone, The Andy Griffith Show, Daniel Boone, The Beverly Hillbillies, Maverick and Gunsmoke Gunslinger Cleed in Anybody Can Kill a Marshal in Season 8 Episode 26. He played the circus leader, Dr. Marvello, in an episode of Lost in Space Circus 1966, My 3 Sons a Horse for Uncle Charlie 1968. Personal life. Westerfield as a young man was a roommate of fellow Pasadena Playhouse actor George Reeves. The 2 remained close friends until Reeves's death in 1959. In the 1950s, Westerfield's wife was the former Frances Lansing, who had been an actress. Later, Westerfield was married to Alice G. Faye, an actress under the name Faye Tracy. Westerfield died from a heart attack in Woodland Hills, California, at the age of 58. Selected filmography. The Harrods of Virginia 1940 Baptisman film debut, uncredited Highway West 1941 Sweet Trotter at Café the Bashful Butcher 1942 Fault Level Pitchman uncredited About Face 1942 Soldier with Diz uncredited The Magnificent Amber since 1942 Policeman at Aston uncredited The Pride of the Andes 1942 Spectator uncredited Timber 1942 Lumberjack uncredited Around the World 1943 Bashful Marine uncredited Since You Went Away 1944 Convalescent on Rehab Steps uncredited of SS 1946 Det Roberts uncredited Deterrent 1946 Henry Gills in the Chase 1946 Job the Butterside Street 1950 Patrolman Charlie uncredited Mall and Perpetual Good to Town 1950 RV Attendant uncredited The Whistle of Deaton Falls 1951 Joe London and the Waterfront 1954 Great Mac 3 Hours to Till 1954 Samine of the Human Tunnel 1954 Police Captain Multi House and the Violent Men 1954 Sheriff Matruder Chief Gazetolus 1955 Cattleman Cell 2455 Death Row 1955, Red and Predator, The Pope-Up 1955, James Bedley, The Scovelett Coat 1955, Conor Jameson, Lucy Gallant 1955, Harry Wilson, Man with the Gun 1955, Mr. Center, Away All Birds 1956, Birds Toward Dysentery, Brave Men 1956, Chief of Police Timothy Aloysius O'Reilly, John L. Heat 1957, R.V. Matthews, Decision, Asunder 1957, Otis Cabin 1958, Mike Adams, The Proud Rebel 1958, Burn Bates, The Wall That Winter Fell, The Window 1958, Joe Viviana, The Anna 1959, Herb Loftus, The Shetty Dog 1959, Officer Hanson, The Godfather, Dodge City 1959, Never End, Howard, Wild River 1960, Cal Goth, The Plunderers 1960, Mike Balance, Eluno, The Bonanza 1960, Minus 1970, 2 episodes Sheriff John Logan / Arthur Blackwell, The Absent-Minded Professor 1960, One Police Officer Anson Homicidal 1961, Alfred South. James Budman of Alcatraz 1962, Jess Younger, son of Flubber 1963, Police Officer Hanson, Man's Favorite Sport 1964, Policeman Bikini Beach 1964, Caught Past You, The Sons of Katie Elder 1965, Miss Eveno, The Funny Feeling 1965, Officer Brockle, Lost in Space 1966, Dr. Marvello, Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round 1966, Jack Balter, A Man Called Gannon 1968, Amos Blue 1968, Abe Pokahang M. High in 1968, Prisoner Smith 1969, Sheriff True Grit 1969, Judge Parker, The Love God 1969, Reverend Wilkerson, Dead End 1971, Sean Appleby, Final Film